Between 1996 and 1997, 3 young women vanished one after another in the affluent suburb of Claremont, Perth. Sarah Spears, Jane Rimmer, and Ciara Glennon, aged 18, 23, and 27 respectively, disappeared without a trace, sparking a mystery that would soon reveal a much darker truth. The question arose: were these disappearances connected? What really happened to these young women? Claremont, situated in the western part of Perth, is bordered by Airline Street to the south, Alfred Road to the north, Lock Street and Bay Road to the east, and Stirling Highway, Congdon Street, and Stirling Road to the west. While predominantly residential, Claremont also boasts a prominent shopping center along Stirling Highway and the Claremont Showground in the eastern part of Lake Claremont. Additionally, the Claremont Showground and Claremont Oval, home to the Lake Claremont Football Club, can be found here. Stirling Highway is home to a bustling commercial district, particularly in the St. Quentin's Avenue area, where various bars are also located. Notably, the Claremont Hotel on the Terrace and the Bayview Hotel are prominent establishments in the area. It is at the Bayview Hotel where one of Australia's most chilling cases unfolded between 1996 and 1997. Sarah Spears, born on September 12, 1977, grew up in a rural area of Western Australia. Her father, Don Spears, worked as a shearing contractor based in Darkin, a town in the state's wheat belt. When their children reached high school age, the Spears, like many other rural families, sent them to boarding school in Perth. Sarah eventually enrolled in Iona Presentation College, located in Mosman Park. After completing her education, she pursued secretarial school and secured a receptionist position at an engineering firm in Subiaco. In 1996, Jane Rimmer was living in a South Perth flat with her eldest sister, Amanda. They had a close bond, just like Jane had with her parents. Jane was born on October 12, 1972, to Trevor Rimmer and Jenny Rimmer. She grew up in Shenton Park and attended Rosalie Primary School and later Hollywood High School. While studying, she also worked part-time at a nearby deli. Jane had a passion for children, which led her to work as a childcare worker in Nedlands. She even worked as a nanny for a family in Esperance before returning to Nedlands. Tragically, it was during this time that she went missing after a night out with friends at the Continental Hotel on June 9, 1996. Ciara Glennon, born on November 20, 1969, had a different upbringing. She was raised in the affluent suburb of Mosman Park before moving to Perth at a young age. Ciara was born in Zambia to Irish parents, Dennis Glennon and Una Glennon. After graduating from University of Western Australia with degrees in law and Japanese in 1992, she secured a highly sought-after internship at the prestigious legal firm Blake Dawson Waldron. She started working there in early 1993. Described by her father as resourceful, resilient, and strong-willed, Ciara was known for her passion and great sense of humor. On March 15, 1997, she disappeared from Claremont. The backdrop of this case began on January 27, 1996, when Sarah Spears left Club Bayview in Claremont after a fun night out with friends. At 2:06 a.m., she made a call from a public phone booth to request a taxi to Mosman Park. However, when the taxi arrived at 2:09 a.m., Sarah was nowhere to be found. Witnesses reported seeing her waiting alone near the intersection of Stirling Road and Stirling Highway. The following day, there was no word from Sarah to any of her loved ones. This was highly unusual considering her strong bond with family and friends. After Sarah's sister failed to hear from her following the night of January 27, 1996, her family reported her missing, prompting the Major Crime Squad of Western Australia to take on the case. The circumstances surrounding Sarah's disappearance were concerning. She had called for a taxi at 2:06 a.m., but by the time the taxi arrived at 2:09 a.m., she was nowhere to be found. What could have transpired in those mere 3 minutes? Within 48 hours of her vanishing, the Major Crime Squad began their investigation into Sarah Spears' case, leaving no stone unturned in their pursuit of leads. They were desperate for any information that could provide an update or shed light on Sarah's disappearance. Unfortunately, their efforts yielded no results. Sarah remained missing, and her case gradually grew cold, leaving the crime department without any leads to follow. There was no physical evidence, no CCTV footage, and not a single reliable witness to provide the authorities with crucial information regarding Sarah Spears' vanishing. However, just 4.5 months later, another young woman went missing from the same area of Claremont. On June 9, 1996, 23-year-old Jane Rimmer, a childcare worker, was last seen at the Continental Hotel in Claremont after a night out with friends. She disappeared while walking home on a street in the vicinity. The major crime squad began to notice a pattern emerging: the disappearances of young women from the Claremont area. This realization prompted them to conduct a thorough investigation within the neighborhood. Jane's family experienced the same distress as Sarah's family when she vanished from Claremont. Like Sarah, Jane had a close relationship with her family and maintained regular contact with them. Even though she had moved out of her parents' house, she maintained a close and loving relationship with them. Every weekend, she would return to her family's home to enjoy Sunday lunch together. Jane's parents adored her, and their affection was evident in her personality. The major crime squad was diligently searching for any potential leads, including eyewitnesses and taxi drivers who may have had contact with or witnessed anything related to the case. Up until August 3, 1996, the disappearance of these two young women remained a perplexing missing persons case in Claremont. However, everything changed when Jane's body was discovered by a family in a wooded area just 40 kilometers away from Claremont on that fateful day. The Van Ralta Evans family stumbled upon the grim sight while driving through the semi-rural land in Wellard, located about 40 kilometers south of Perth. Tammy Van Ralta Evans, the mother, ventured down a bush path while her children played nearby, captivated by the sight of the largest death lily she had ever seen. As she admired the flower, she noticed a pair of feet and, upon further investigation, discovered Jane's naked body concealed behind branches. The major crime squad was immediately notified, and a large team swiftly arrived at the scene to retrieve the body for autopsy and launch a thorough investigation. The discovery of Jane's body marked a significant turning point in the case. In the hopes of finding any clues that could lead to the killer, the area where her body was found underwent meticulous examination. Detective Paul Ferguson, who was leading the case at the time, expressed optimism that these findings might provide valuable information in locating Sarah. Pathwest pathologist Clive Cook confirmed that Jane's death was indeed a murder, as a deep wound from a sharp object was discovered on her throat, along with defensive wounds indicating that she had fought back against her assailant. Furthermore, despite the severe decomposition of the body, the forensic department could not find any evidence of sexual assault. To investigate the case, the Western Australian police formed the Macro Task Force. They found a telecom knife less than a kilometer away from the crime scene on Woolcoot Road, which turned out to be the murder weapon. On the night Jane was killed, two couples residing in Wellard reported hearing a lady screaming and shouting. Kenneth Mitchell claimed to have seen a car driving off in the direction where Miss Rimmer's body was found after hearing the lady yell, "Leave me alone! Let me out of here!" Another couple in the same area remembered hearing cries that abruptly stopped. All these witnesses, evidence, and forensic results pointed towards the use of a sharp tool, most likely a knife, in the murder. However, the evidence didn't confirm the murder weapon yet. Fast forward to March 15, 1997, 9 months after Jane Rimmer's disappearance, another young woman named Ciara Glennon, aged 27, went missing from the same area in Claremont while heading home. The Macro Task Force immediately took over the missing persons case. Ciara's father, Dennis Glennon, made an emotional appeal for help to find his daughter, stating that she would fight back due to her upbringing. On April 3, 1997, the body of 27-year-old lawyer Ciara Glennon was discovered partially buried in undergrowth in a bushland area north of Perth, near Pippedini Road in Eglinton, just 19 days after her disappearance. The discovery of Miss Glennon's body was made through a tiny limestone trail. Former senior pathologist Karen Margolius noted that Miss Glennon's body was found fully clothed, but her black skirt appeared to have been pushed up around her waist. Sierra Glennon, adorned with an array of jewelry, including a gleaming gold chain bracelet, earrings, a watch, and even a navel ring, met a tragic end. Her life was abruptly halted when an unknown object struck her skull, leaving her momentarily stunned. The wound on her throat mirrored that of Jane Rimmer, connecting the two cases. Forensic analysis revealed that fibers found on both Miss Glennon and Miss Rimmer were identical, further strengthening the link. Additionally, DNA discovered beneath Sierra's fingernails was believed to belong to the killer. Her battered skin and cracked thumbnail hinted at a valiant attempt to defend herself against her assailant. Shocking photographs of the crime scene unveiled a chilling sight: damaged trees with severed branches serving as a macabre burial ground for Miss Glennon. As the investigation unfolded, it became evident that Sierra's disappearance was the handiwork of the same culprit. The macro task force, now driven by desperation, was determined to apprehend the perpetrator and prevent another tragedy. Among the primary suspects, Lance Williams stood out. The task force closely monitored his movements as he aimlessly roamed the streets of Claremont in his car on a Sunday afternoon. His peculiar behaviors, such as driving around past midnight and circling the Claremont region multiple times, raised suspicion. Moreover, his tendency to offer women rides added a disturbingly sexual element to the case. As the media and news agencies swarmed around him, Lance faced direct questions. He vehemently denied being the serial killer, but readily admitted his innocence. The police were curious to know how Lance Williams' life had changed since he became a prime suspect in the Claremont serial killings. He admitted that it had been a distressing time for him and his family. However, despite their doubts, the police realized that Lance was not the man they were looking for. Their attention then turned to Perth's taxi drivers, as the women were last seen in situations where they may have taken taxis. One driver claimed to have picked up Sarah the night before she disappeared. To eliminate suspects, all registered taxi drivers in Western Australia underwent extensive fingerprint and DNA examinations. As a result, stricter criteria were implemented, and licenses were revoked for 78 drivers with criminal histories. The police searched tirelessly for months, but unfortunately, they found no concrete evidence to lead them in the right direction. In 2004, after 7 years of unsuccessful investigations, the police considered disbanding the Macro Task Force. However, they decided to wait for an independent review of the case before making a final decision. The review involved experts from Australia, the UK, and a psychological profiler. Would this review provide the breakthrough they desperately needed, or would the case eventually fade away after years of investigation? The Special Task Force, with the help of the country's top forensic experts, made a breakthrough in the case when they discovered a crucial piece of evidence. In 2008, they analyzed a sample from Glennon's fingernails using the Western Australia database and found a match with a victim who had been assaulted and left alive at a cemetery in 1995. This revelation, along with the fact that the experts had access to all the evidence, including blue polyester fibers found on the deceased, provided them with a clear direction to follow. Professor Barkley, the forensic expert on the task force, explained that their goal was to search for connections between previous cases in the Western Australia police database and the Claremont murders. This review was crucial in uncovering new leads and evidence that had previously been overlooked. The discovery of male DNA beneath Miss Glennon's fingernails was a major breakthrough in the Claremont case after 12 years. Scientists in a specialized London facility utilized an advanced technique called low copy number analysis, which was not available in Perth at the time, to identify the DNA in 2008. Brendan Chapman, A forensic scientist in Perth and former crime scene investigator revealed that they used a procedure called polymerase chain reaction to amplify the DNA for more detailed analysis, as they lacked the sensitivity to identify a single copy of DNA. This amplification process resulted in obtaining a DNA profile. In a surprising twist, the DNA sample matched DNA obtained from a teenager who had been kidnapped and assaulted in a park in Claremont's Karrakatta Cemetery in 1995, a year before the killings began. Now, they had the suspect's DNA. Detectives meticulously examined cold cases to determine if the murderer had been involved in any previous crimes. In 1988, a horrifying incident took place in a quiet Huntingdale house in southeast Perth. A young 18-year-old girl was attacked while she lay in her bed. This sent shockwaves through the community. The intruder, startled by the girl's cries for help, fled the scene, leaving behind a stolen kimono from a nearby clothing line. Authorities were determined to solve this unsettling case and connect it to another similar attack. They meticulously analyzed a fingerprint collected from the doorknob of the Huntingdale property, which had been preserved since 1998. It was a crucial piece of evidence that would lead them closer to the truth. In 2008, the fingerprints were matched to a man named Bradley Robert Edwards, who had a previous record of attacking a hospital employee in 1990. This faceless man, who had brought tragedy to the innocent souls of Claremont, was none other than Bradley Robert Edwards himself. It was a chilling revelation. Growing up in Huntingdale with his parents, younger brother, and sister, Bradley followed in his father's footsteps and worked as a technician at Telstra throughout his professional career. However, beneath the surface, a darker side of Bradley emerged. He became a peeping Tom, starting with stealing undergarments, a disturbing habit that would escalate over time. Bradley's first encounter with the law occurred before he got married. While working on a Telstra project at Hollywood Hospital, he attacked a woman named Wendy Davis in 1980. Approaching her desk under the pretense of needing to use the restroom, Bradley suddenly grabbed Wendy from behind and forcefully pulled her towards the restrooms. Wendy fought back, delivering a powerful kick to her assailant. Surprisingly, Bradley apologized and released her. The police swiftly arrived and arrested Bradley, leading to a court order for him to undergo therapy for 12 months. Despite this incident, Bradley managed to keep his position at Telstra and even received a promotion shortly after. He cited his fiancée's pressure to get married as the reason behind his actions at the time. They tied the knot shortly thereafter. Bradley, at a young age, settled down in a location close to his parents' home in Huntingdale. However, their marriage didn't stand the test of time. Bradley's wife felt neglected due to his excessive focus on his computer. Eventually, she started dating a male friend who moved in to assist with their expenses. In 1996, she left the house with her new boyfriend. Around the same time, Sarah Spears mysteriously disappeared. A few months later, Bradley's ex-wife contacted him to inform him that she was pregnant with her new partner's child. Shortly after that, Jane Rimmer went missing. Ciara's murder occurred when Bradley ended his relationship with a woman he had been seeing in early 1997. The discovery of significant DNA matches prompted an undercover operation to collect Edwards' DNA. During a visit to the movies, he left an empty Sprite bottle outside the theater, which the police swiftly seized for DNA analysis. The DNA taken from the bottle was found to match the unknown male's DNA profile found under Ciara's fingernails, providing the crucial evidence the police needed. Bradley Robert Edwards, aged 52, was arrested on December 22, 2016, and 3 years later, his trial commenced. Due to the high-profile nature of the case and the disturbing evidence involved, the prosecution requested a judge-alone trial, which was granted on November 25, 2019, with Judge Stephen Hall presiding over the murder trial in the Supreme Court. While the defense argued that the evidence had been compromised in the lab, it was undeniable that Bradley's DNA was found under Ciara's fingernails and matched the stolen kimono he left at the crime scene. The Telstra work vans played a crucial role as key pieces of evidence. Edwards, a technician at the time, was accused of committing the offenses using corporate vehicles after hours. A security guard who frequently witnessed the telecom van stopping at the Karakata graveyard without any apparent reason, both before Spears' 1996 disappearance and after the 1997 incident, confirmed this. Carmel Barbagallo, the prosecutor, presented evidence from a period between 1995 and 1997, where a man driving a Telstra station wagon would approach women and offer them rides. This evidence was submitted as part of the Telstra Living Witness Project case. The fact that the blue polyester fibers found at the crime scene on the bodies of Jane and Ciara matched the Telstra station wagon owned by Bradley further solidified his direct connection to the murders. From April 1996 to December 1998, Edwards operated a Telstra-branded white VS series van, which was located and seized on the day of his arrest. The defense argued that these fibers could have come from another source or vehicle not listed in the Western Australia crime database. However, it was revealed during the hearing that the carpet fibers found in the back of Edwards' car matched those found on both Rimmer's and Glennon's bodies. Bradley's defense team claimed that Miss Glennon's fingernail samples, taken throughout the inquiry, were contaminated due to Bradley's DNA being present in the lab since the 1995 assault. Attorney Paul Yovich cross-examined several scientists from Perth's Path West facility, where the DNA was tested, regarding their procedures. Yovich even speculated that Edwards may have been in the lab. Nevertheless, the prosecutors were able to disprove these arguments with the help of the right witnesses and a series of well-structured pieces of evidence. After 7 months of hearings and over 200 witness depositions, the trial concluded on June 25, 2020. Following the conclusion of the trial, Judge Hall took a moment to gather his thoughts before delivering his decision regarding Bradley's detention. It was a tense moment, as the expiration date of Bradley's time in jail was approaching rapidly on September 24, 2020. Ultimately, Edwards was found guilty of the murders of Jane and Ciara, but not of Sarah Spears. In a lengthy 619-page written verdict, Judge Hall expressed that while it was highly likely that Bradley was involved in Sarah's disappearance, there was not enough evidence to directly link him to the crime. As a result, Bradley was sentenced to life in prison with the possibility of parole after 40 years, with the date set for December 23, 2020. Judge Hall also acknowledged the grim reality that Edwards may never leave prison alive. The chances of him passing away behind bars were deemed to be quite high. However, despite the severity of Bradley's sentence, it is crucial to delve into the psychology of the criminal. Miss Barbagallo argued that understanding the timeline of the crimes and Bradley's behavior is essential in comprehending the emotional distress he experienced in his personal life. This timeline was presented in court during the trial. The incident at Hollywood Hospital occurred shortly after Bradley discovered that his ex-girlfriend had been unfaithful to him in the 1980s. In 1994, his first wife began an extramarital affair due to Bradley's increasing emotional distance and excessive time spent on his computer. By January or February of 1995, her lover had moved into their marital home. The Karakata assault case was reported in the same year, shortly after Sarah Spears' disappearance in 1996. Tragically, just a few days after his wife left him, Jane vanished and was later found murdered. Shortly after this devastating event, Bradley learned that his estranged wife was pregnant with a child, fathered by the same man she had left him for in 1996. In the latter half of 1996, Bradley entered into an intimate relationship with a woman who was significantly older than him. However, this relationship came to an end in March 1997, coinciding with the disappearance and murder of Ciara Glennon. The prosecution argued that no further murders were committed after Bradley met his second wife in April 1997, just 1 month after Ciara's tragic death. Bradley's state of mind during the crimes in Claremont becomes evident when examining this timeline of events. The pain of losing a child is immeasurable, and the parents and family members of the victims endured years of suffering. However, their resilience prevailed as they witnessed justice being served. Despite Sarah Spears' body remaining unfound and Bradley adamantly denying the murder, the court recognized him as the perpetrator. Unfortunately, due to a lack of evidence, justice for Sarah's murder could not be fully achieved. Nevertheless, the unwavering dedication of forensic science and the police department in this case shines through, bringing justice to the innocent souls brutally taken by this killer. In a time when faith in our justice system wavers, this case stands as a beacon of hope, reminding us that morality and principles still form the foundation of our system. The skeletal remains of a woman were discovered on December 12, 1994, off Tom Hicken Road in Sugarloaf Township, Luzerne County, Pennsylvania, during a mining reclamation project. A state worker found her, noticing that her skeleton was scattered between the top and bottom of a coal bank. She was found above ground with no signs of burial. A foreign metal fragment was found in her lower jaw. Authorities arrived at the scene and determined that the remains belonged to a female who was approximately 5 feet 1 to 5 feet 4 tall. It was estimated that she was between 34 and 47 years old at the time of her death, which was believed to have occurred between 6 months to 2 years prior to the discovery. Despite extensive efforts, including comparisons and leads, the woman's identity remained a mystery due to the condition of the remains, making it impossible to determine the cause and manner of death. A facial reconstruction was created in 1996 after studying her skull. The sculpture was widely circulated in the media in an attempt to identify her, leading to her being known as Sugarloaf Jane Doe. Unfortunately, the case remained unsolved for years. In 2021, authorities released a computer-generated likeness of the unidentified victim and offered a reward for any information. Thanks to recent advancements in DNA technology and forensic genealogy, a potential relative of the unidentified woman was identified by Othram. Investigators interviewed the relative, obtained an additional DNA sample, and confirmed that she was her sister. In February 2024, after almost 3 decades, state police announced that the unidentified woman was positively identified as Margaret Carol Winninger. She was born on September 5, 1948, in Hazleton, Pennsylvania, and lived with her family in northeast Philadelphia until she went missing in the early 1990s. Margaret attended West Hazleton High School from 1965 to 1966 and served as a maid of honor at a wedding at Our Lady of Grace Church in 1968. In 1965, her parents went through a divorce, and her father had been employed as a greenskeeper at Valley Country Club. Following her high school graduation, her sister enlisted in the Women's Army Corps. Although the identification of Margaret provides some resolution, the investigation into her unfortunate demise remains ongoing. The state police are appealing to anyone who may have had any interaction with her in the Luzerne County region during that period to step forward and share any relevant information.